This is the plaintiff, Herman Brown. He says he crashed his remote control airplane and he purchased another one from the defendant who took his money but never sent him the plane. The defendant should be ashamed of himself. He won't return his money and he's suing him here and now for the $437.63 he's owed. This is the defendant, Terry Appleby. He says he shipped the plaintiff his airplane on a Greyhound bus, but something happened in transit because they ran into a hurricane. He feels bad the plaintiff didn't get the airplane he shipped, but it's not his fault that they never made it. It's Greyhound's. He's accused of crashing and dashing.
All parties, please raise your right hands. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Munoz now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Mr. Brown, you are suing Mr. Appleby for $437.63 that you paid him for an RC Baron G58 plane, which you're going to tell me any second now what that is, and never received. What happened?
The RC Baron is a composite plane. It's one of the top-of-line planes, and it's a twin-engine plane.
Okay, but it's not a real airplane because it's $400. So what is it that I'm talking about here? A remote control or?
Yes, you're speaking of a radio-controlled airplane.
Okay.
And it's a composite, so it's built of not a balsam wood. It's made of composite material.
Okay.
When you purchase a plane, there are scale planes, and they're a step up from the basic balsam plane because it's a scale plane. Per se, and you can have pilots sit in the plane, lights on the plane, retracts on the planes, open and closing doors. You basically configure this plane how you want to.
Okay.
And it's
obviously a hobby. Have you been an aficionado of this kind of thing for a long time?
I've been doing it for the last 25 years. Yes.
Oh, okay. And then, so what do? You go out into, I guess, open field.
You have to have a license to go out and fly because the planes are not toys. And so we regulate it through AMA.
Wait, how are they not a toy? What do you mean? They don't have a work function. They're a hobby. I mean, they may be a complicated hobby, so you need to have a license, but it's still a hobby, right?
It's a hobby.
It's kind of a toy. A toy's not a bad word. A toy's a great thing. You know, all right. So you actually have to have a license to fly these?
I misspoke. It's not a license yet. You call it a license, you have your license, but it's really insurance. Because when the planes come down, they can do a lot of damage.
Okay, so now, can you see up on the screen, is that an example of this type of plane?
Yes, that's the plane.
Okay, and unfortunately, I don't have a human next to it, so I don't know how big it is. So how big would that be?
The plane is 72-inch wingspan on it.
72 inches, so that's pretty big.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a serious plane.
And I think it comes in around 15 to 18 pounds.
Okay. All right. So you went online and decided to buy the one that the defendant was advertising.
Well, he sent me pictures August 25th and asked me to contact him. And I did contact him. And then I told him that's the plane I wanted. We agreed upon a price.
So what was the price you agreed upon?
$425.
All right. The $12.63 is a service fee on what?
A service fee for PayPal.
All right. So you paid him through PayPal?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Judge.
Okay. So what ends up happening? Did you get the plane?
No, I didn't. What happened was that Terry contacted me on August 22nd, and I texted Terry and told him that I sent him sending the funds. He said he had to get a box, and he had to get a box because it's a big plane, and he had to get a box, and he was going to ship it. He contacted me again on September on the 1st and let me know that the Baron had been shipped. He had sent it to Greyhound.
September what?
September the 1st.
Okay. Now, you never ended up getting the plane, correct?
No.
All right. So let me ask you, Mr. Appleby, what happened to the plane?
I'm not sure about Mr. Brown's dates. According to my records, I shipped that August the 22nd.
All right. And then who paid for shipping? You did?
I did.
All right. And who selected the carrier to ship it on? You did?
I think it was agreed between both of us.
Okay. So when you shipped it, what happened to it? Because nobody can find it.
Exactly. When I shipped it, at that time in Louisiana, Alabama. They were going through tropical storms, a hurricane. I asked Greyhound, how long will it take to get there? They said usually 6 days. They said, but they got to go a different route. They got to go through the northern part to avoid the bad weather, and it might take a little bit longer. I said, okay. And they shipped it off. I waited. A few weeks later, Mr. Brown contacted me. We mainly contacted between text and on the phone or by the phone. So he never got it. On his end, he checked on his end. I checked on my end here in Jacksonville, Florida, with Greyhound. They say it's being delivered, or it's in transit. Kept checking on it a couple, 3 times. They say the last time I checked with Jacksonville Greyhound Station, they said it's in Texas, the last place it was scanned, and they can't find it.
They can't find it.
They can't find it.
Okay. Well, that's why God made insurance. So, have you made a claim with Greyhound?
When I shipped it, the attendant there asked me about it, how much to insure it for. I said $500. Apparently, there's a typographical error, or he misunderstood me, and he only insured it for $100.
Or you didn't want to pay the extra money for the $500 insurance, and you're a gambling man and you lost the gamble. Either way, that sounds to me like a you problem, Mr. Appleby. Why is that a Mr. Brown problem?
I'm not saying it's his problem.
Well, you are, because that was August, and you haven't returned the man's money, even though you know that he never got the plane.
Correct. It just, with the pandemic going around, with work slowing down, it was the furthest thing from my mind.
Well, it can't be the furthest thing from your mind, because a guy asked you for his money back over and over, so he was reminding you, so it was in your mind. Your position is, hey, I didn't do anything wrong, so that's on him. How is it possibly ever on him? All he did was trust you to be an honest seller and sell him something. What do you think a person in his position is supposed to do? He's out the $500. He doesn't have the plane. You know that. So what's he supposed to do? Nothing? He has to sue you?
No, that's not right.
So why haven't you paid him?
I've been busy with everything else. No excuse, really.
You've been busy, or you haven't wanted to part with your $500?
No, I've just been busy.
What do you do that you're so busy? Because I'm pretty busy. But if I owe somebody $437.63, I'm going to pay him.
I work out of my house for a guy. I'm a forklift mechanic. I go to different.
Well, you got plenty of time to have hobbies with G-58 planes. So I'm not quite. And then you had to find a box for it or construct a box for it. Then you had to take it to Greyhound and to ship it. So you have plenty of time to do everything except for one thing: check how much insurance you bought. But if all you bought was 100, by the way, did you make a claim on the 100?
That's not up to me. That's up to Mr. Brown.
No, it's not. You're the shipper. No, you're the shipper. You pick the carrier. You paid for shipping. The claim is up to you. See? All he wants is his money back. And you actually had the hubris to say, why don't you just contest it on PayPal? What do you think PayPal's going to do? If PayPal gives him his money back, you don't think PayPal's going to chase you and get the money from you?
No. PayPal, there's a thing, you pay one of 2 ways. Either friends and family, where there's no fee, or you pay by purchasing something. If you purchase something, then you're guaranteed.
Okay, so you think that he should absorb the hit and make a claim through PayPal, because that way you don't have to pay him, right? I don't make this stuff up. You want me to read your verbatim answer to the complaint? No. Okay,
No.
Sounds awful when I say it, right?
You're right, he deserves.
Yeah, he does. I'm ruling in favor of the plaintiff in the amount of the $437.63, plus your court costs, plus prejudgment statutory interest in your state from the day you paid him the money. Okay? That's my verdict.
So finally, Mr. Brown is going to get his money back for the airplane, which he never did receive. Mr. Appleby, a couple of quick questions. Let me ask you a question about why you shipped it by Greyhound. Why a bus? There are many other ways to ship something that big.
It wasn't that far from Florida to Texas. It's cheaper to ship through Greyhound.
How big was the box, by the way?
It was about 61 inches long, about 14 inches wide, weighed about 20 pounds.
Okay, pretty good big box.
As far as insurance,
sorry about that. You lose the case. You lose the case. Yep, you got to pay him. The judgment against you. Okay, sorry about that. Mr. Brown,
Yes.
You feel relieved a little bit? Maybe a little bit? No airplane, but you're going to get your money. How about that?
Well, I think that's great. I hate that the situation turned the way it is, and there's no hard feelings, but I'm glad to get my money back.
Let me ask you, you had one of these planes, you said you crashed it. What happened? Did it do much damage anywhere or not?
Yes. I didn't check the prop. It's a twin-engine plane. I didn't check the prop, and I took off, and the prop came off, and it nosedived from about 30 feet up, and it totally destroyed the plane.
All right. Well, it looks like you have fun doing this, so good luck to you. I assume you'll get another one of these planes one of these days, right?
Yes, probably.
Okay. Good luck.
Doug, this is a really important point. The defendant had the obligation to ship this thing, and he can't pass that obligation off on Greyhound or FedEx or anybody else. It is his responsibility. He has to make good on it. And if Greyhound or anybody else screws up, then he has a claim against Greyhound maybe, but the plaintiff gets his money.
You often comment on the lower burden of proof in civil versus criminal cases. Does that make it easier or harder to be a civil court judge versus a criminal court judge?
Well, there's so many facets to that question, because a lot of civil court cases are decided by the judge, and most every criminal court case is decided by a jury.
Right. We have what we call bench trials
right.
in civil a lot, but in the criminal side, no.
No, they're mostly juries. So it's neither harder nor easier. In one, we're not the triers of fact,
right.
So we're presiding over the balls and strikes in the courtroom,
right.
and making rulings on objections and on legal motions. And in the other, when you're a small claims court judge or when you're doing a bench trial in a non-small claims court case, you're the trier of fact. So you've got to figure out whether the person has proven their case or not. But in a sense, I guess it's I don't know whether I would say it's easier or not, because truly your mind just goes to what the burden of proof is, right. And you look at this and you say, yeah, it's more likely than not, or you haven't proven it beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt.